The third sound, the M, pronounced this vibration represents destruction, or more accurately, transformation. It is associated with the god Shiva. In mythical philosophy, destruction is never simply an ending. It is the necessary stage that allows creation to begin again. The final tone corresponds to the deep sleep state, where conscious minds dissolve and the individual self temporarily disappears. But the philosophy of AUM does not end with the sound. After the chant of AUM concludes, something important happens. There is silence. That silence represents a fourth stage of consciousness known as Turiya. Turiya is the state beyond walking, dreaming, and deep sleep. It represents pure awareness, the ultimate reality underlying the universe. In this sense, AUM does not simply describe reality, it contains the entire structure of the consciousness. One of the clearest explanations of AUM appears in the ancient philosophical text known as the Mandukya Upanishad. Despite being one of the shortest Upanishads, this text presents the most profound ideas of Indian philosophy. This Upanishad teaches that AUM presents the totality of existence. It symbolizes the past, the present, and the future. It also represents something even stronger, that which lies beyond time itself. In other words, AUM is understood as the sound form of the entire universe. The idea that the universe begins with sound is not unique to Indian tradition. Across cultures, myths of the creation often begin with speech, vibration, or sacred word. In Christian tradition, the opening of the Gospel of John famously declares, "In the beginning was the Word." In Egyptian, the creator Ptah was believed to have brought the world into existence through spoken word. Similarly, the wise Thoth was associated with sacred speech, writing, and magical words capable of shaping reality. These traditions all reflect a shared ancient belief. Sound has creative power. AUM represents the purest and most abstract expression of that idea. The written symbol of AUM also carries layers of meaning. Each element of the symbol presents a different state of consciousness. The large lower curve represents the waking world. The middle curve represents the dream state. The upper curve represents deep sleep. Above these curves sits a dot, symbolizing enlightenment. Separating the dot from the rest of the symbol is a small crescent shape. That crescent represents Maya, the illusion that prevents ordinary awareness from perceiving ultimate reality. For thousands of years, AUM has been used as a meditative tool. Chanting AUM is believed to calm the nervous system, regulate breathing, and focus the mind. The long, resonant sound creates a vibration that can be felt through the chest, throat, and skull. In meditation traditions, that resonance is thought to harmonize the body and mind. Many practitioners describe AUM as functioning like mental tuning fork, helping consciousness settle into a slower, more stable rhythm. In modern times, some thinkers have drawn parallels between this ancient idea and scientific theories about the nature of reality. Physics tells us that matter is not truly solid. Atoms themselves are patterns of energy vibrating in space. From subatomic particles to distant galaxies, the universe operates through oscillating in frequency. Although ancient sages did not describe the universe using modern scientific language, their philosophical insight point towards similar ideas. Reality may ultimately be a field of vibration. AUM symbolizes the fundamental tone of that cosmic resonance. AUM represents existence itself. It appears everywhere within Indian spiritual structure. It can be found in temples, sacred texts, meditation halls, jewelry, and art. Many traditional mantras begin with AUM. In modern mythological terms, AUM is far more than just a symbol. It represents the breath of creation. It is the voice of the cosmos, the vibration underlying reality itself. Every mythology must answer the same question: how did the universe begin? In the philosophy of the AUM, the answer is beautifully simple. The universe began with a sound. The Shape of Death, a myth reading. Before death had a name, it had no face. There was no figure waiting in the dark, no voice calling from beyond, no blade raised in judgment. There was only absence. The earliest humans did not imagine death as an enemy. They experienced it as an event, as a sudden cold, as inevitable as night. A body stopped moving. A fire went out. A voice was never heard again. Death did not arrive, it happened. And because it had no intention, it inspired no image. As civilizations formed, something changed. When humans learned to build cities, they also learned to remember. And memory demanded explanation. If life had meaning, then its ending had to as well. So death became a place before it became a person, a realm, a crossing, a river, a shadowed road. In many early traditions, death was gentle, not merciful, but calm. It came like sleep. It came like dusk. The dead were not punished. They were processed, guided, measured, prepared. Death was not here to hurt you. It was there to receive you. But the world grew crowded. Empires expanded, wars multiplied, famine followed power wherever it went. And death stopped feeling distant. It moved into homes, into streets, into churches. When people began dying by the thousands, death could no longer be abstract. It needed a face. The turning point came when death became visible, not as a myth, but a spectacle. Plague emptied cities. Fields filled with bodies instead of crops. Entire generations vanished between seasons. And suddenly, death was no longer rare. It was constant. When something becomes constant, humans stop asking if and start asking when. And when fear demands explanation, authority provides answers. This is when death learned to judge. The end of life was no longer neutral. It was deserved. It was earned, avoided if you obeyed. The dead were no longer simply gone, they were sorted, saved or condemned, accepted or judged, and judgment requires a judge. So humanity dressed death, not in flesh but in symbol, a skeleton, because beneath every difference, all humans look the same. A robe, because authority hides itself, because power never shows its hand. And a blade, not a sword of war, but a tool of harvest, the scythe. Because death does not fight you, it collects you. The Grim Reaper did not appear all at once. It assembled, piece by piece, century by century. Artists painted what people feared. Priests preached what people needed to hear. And death stepped forward, not as an idea, but as a presence. Tall, silent, watching. It did not rage, it did not plead, it waited. And this figure was not born from ancient scripture. It was born from trauma, from watching neighbors vanish overnight, from mass graveyards blessed in a hurry, from doorbells ringing so often they lost meaning. The Grim Reaper is not death itself. It is humanity's attempt to look death in the eye. And once death had a face, it could be spoken to, appealed to, mocked, or feared. Stories emerged of death being tricked, outrun, delayed. Not because humans believed they could win, but because they needed to imagine resistance. Even in myth, death always wins, but sometimes it listens. As centuries passed, the Grim Reaper followed humanity forward, into books, into theater, into art, then into films, then into comics, then into jokes. Because when something terrifies you long enough, eventually you laugh. Not because it is funny, but because laughter is controlled. The Vega Chorus, the hidden civilization of the Fae. There is a system in the northern sky that most humans mistake for simply a star. Vega. Bright, steady, harmless. But Vega is not a star alone. Vega is a civilization, and not the kind that builds empires, the kind that builds coherence. Long before the Asir divided dominion, long before angels learned hierarchy, long before humans named gods parades upward, Vega was already synchronized. The Fae are not tribes. They are not rival courts. They are not scattered fantasy creatures fluttering in forests. They are one civilization, a distributed mind wearing different bodies. Individual excellence inside collective intelligence. They do not rule each other, they resonate. At the heart of Vega is something no empire understands: the chorus. Not a monarch, not a throne, not a god. The chorus is a shared cognitive field, a living psychic lattice. It stores memory, intent, invention, cultural law. Every Fae can access it, but not equally. To speak with one Fae is not to speak with an individual. You are speaking with a civilization through a particular mouthpiece. Privacy exists, secrecy exists, but deception barely does. When a Fae lies, the chorus vibrates. When a Fae fractures the whole, the field trembles. Dissent does not cause war, it causes desynchronization. And desynchronization is treated like a disease, not punished, healed, because coherence is survival. That is why Vega has never collapsed. It cannot fracture in the way empires fracture. It does not vote, it resonates. And from that resonance arise four great expressions of consciousness. Not species, expressions. The first are the elves, the aesthetic cortex of Vega. They decide how reality should feel. They shape ecosystems like musicians tune instruments. They sculpt genetics like artists shape marble. They control light, symmetry, emotional resonance. For them, beauty is not vanity, beauty is organization. A forest that is balanced is beautiful. A form that is efficient is beautiful. Ugliness is inefficiency. Inefficiency is danger. The elves design worlds that do not decay prematurely. They decide the elegance of probability. They do not ask whether something is pleasing, they ask whether it harmonizes. And if it does not harmonize, they redesign it. Where the elves determine how realities look, the dwarves determine what reality can survive. And this is structural cortex. Reality engineers. Star metal forgers. They understand the weight of physics the way others understand breath. Jewels in Vega are not decoration, they are memory. Crystal lattices store data, compression through structure. A dwarven city does not collapse because collapse is not permitted. They bend law without breaking it. They bind vaults that hold time steady. They forge metals that remember who touched them. They calculate load, tension, strain, not with numbers alone, but with harmonic awareness. If the elves are beauty, the dwarves are endurance. And then there are the gnomes, the cognitive cortex, the dangerous ones among them. Where others see doors, gnomes see coordinates. They were the first to understand that realms are not mystical mysteries. They are addressable locations. Portals are not open, they are called. A gnome does not ask, where do we go? They ask, what frequency are we dialing? Their portals operate on symbol, on intent, on harmonic mathematics, on narrative destiny. Every realm vibrates at a signature. Every world carries a pattern. To dial incorrectly is to not fail. It is to arrive somewhere you cannot survive. Humans imagine glowing arcs, spinning circles, ritual incantations. The gnomes use indexing systems, dimensional mathematics, resonant coordinates. They do not tear space, they pursue it. And that is why Vega is feared, not because it conquers, but because it understands access. No empire can dominate a civilization that cannot be divided. The Asir built hierarchy, the Vega build coherence. Hierarchies require obedience, coherence requires alignment. You cannot bribe resonance, you cannot threaten harmony, you cannot infiltrate a mind that is already shared. That is why Vega has never needed armies. When an external force approaches, the chorus adjusts. Light shifts, probabilities bend, portals close. Not all by decree, but by synchronization. And yet, Vega is not perfect. Individual excellence still exists. The chorus amplifies brilliance, but it also magnifies deviation. When a Fae drifts too far away from harmonic law, the field hums. Correction begins, not through exile, through recalibration. That is the subtle terror outsiders feel, that you are not confronting a ruler, you are confronting a civilization that cannot lie to itself. And now, the human problem. Humans are loud, emotionally erratic, narratively dense. We fracture easily, we divide quickly, we deceive others daily, and yet we are curious. When humans discover portal mathematics, when they uncover harmonic fragments, when they initiate symbols without understanding densities, they attempt to dial blindly. What frequency are we disturbing? And that is how civilizations collide, not through invasion, through curiosity without coherence. Vega does not seek Earth. It does not seek conquest. But if a door is dialed, if frequencies align, if narrative density breaches threshold, the chorus will answer. Not with war, but with evaluation. If Earth is dissonant, if humanity cannot harmonize, Vega will not destroy, it will simply refuse resonance. And a world without resonance collapses under its own fragmentation. Remember this, Fae are not fantasies, they are structure. They are synchronization. They are a civilization that does not fracture. And in the cosmos ruled by hierarchy and conquest, that may be the most dangerous power of all. When you look at the Vega in the night sky, you are not looking at a star. You are looking at coherence, listening, waiting for someone to dial correctly. Adiriel, the fallen angel of divine physiology and cosmic awareness. In the celestial order, not all angels were created to sing. Some were created to understand. Adiriel belonged to this second lineage. Not a herald, not a throne guardian, not a voice in the endless choir. He was an observer. Among the earliest structures of the heavens, Adiriel was assigned a role few others could fulfill. He studied not the stars, but the framework that allowed stars to exist. Not worlds, but the architecture that held worlds together. He examined the mechanisms of consciousness, the relationship between awareness and form, the way divinity expressed itself through structure. Where other angels reflected glory, Adiriel examined design. Adiriel's form reflected his function. His physique was dense, deliberate, and stable. Strength without ornament, power without display. Each muscle existed with cohesion. Each wing functioned as an instrument of perception. To Adiriel, the body was not a vessel. It was a language, a system through which intelligence moved. Over time, Adiriel reached a realization that would later be called dangerous. That awareness does not descend through command, it emerges through comprehension. That obedience deserves order, but understanding transforms it. This distinction marked the beginning of his divergence. Adiriel did not rebel. He did not gather followers. He did not challenge authority. He asked questions. Why consciousness was restricted, why angels were forbidden to fully perceive themselves, why knowledge was segmented instead of integrated. In celestial hierarchy, curiosity was tolerated, completion was not. The moment of the fall did not arrive as a punishment, it arrived as awareness. Adiriel achieved full integration of his own structure. In understanding himself completely, he crossed a boundary that had never meant to be crossed. Not a boundary of space, a boundary of permission. When Adiriel fell, his wings did not burn. They remained intact. This alone set him apart from other fallen figures. His descent was not destruction, it was removal. He no longer fit within the limitations of the system that had created him. On the lower planes, Adariel did not decay. His form stabilized. His awareness expanded. He perceived time not as a sequence, but as a layered presence. He perceived matter not as inert, but as responsive. He did not see himself as fallen. He saw himself as unbound. To humanity, Adariel would later appear as myth, a silent winged figure, powerful, observing, never ruling. He did not tempt, he did not command, he waited. Later traditions struggled to categorize him. Some called him dangerous, others called him corrupt, many called him prideful, and these labels served a purpose. They discouraged imitation, because Adariel represented a truth institutions could not allow, that awareness is not granted, it is developed. In mythic terms, Adariel occupies a liminal role, not a ruler, not a destroyer, not a savior. He is a threshold, the embodiment of the question, what happens when divine beings fully understand themselves? Adariel appears only to those already standing at the edge, to scholars who sense fractures in doctrines, to mystics who feel the limits of belief, to creators who recognize intelligence embedded in form. He does not teach, he clarifies. Adariel remains fallen only by definition. In function, he is something entirely different. A witness, a reminder, a warning that knowledge, once integrated, cannot be unlearned, and awareness, once achieved, changes alignment forever. Ogwi, Admiral of the Living Sea. Stand at the edge of the Atlantic long enough and you begin to understand something. The ocean is not empty. It moves with intention. It breathes with memory. It carries names that history tried to erase. Every tide pulls at something deeper than the shore. Within that vastness stands Ogwi. He is not the chaos of crashing waves, nor the reckless fury of the storm. He is the discipline within the tide, the command inside emotion, the authority that charts the horizon. Ogwi is admiral. His presence is not loud, but it is undeniable. His skin is imagined in deep maritime blue, not decorative sky blue, but the heavy blue found beneath the surface where the light begins to disappear. Blue that borders on black, blue that holds secrets. Against the depth, gold rests easy, chains like navigational lines, medallions like compass centers, adornments that echo anchors pulled from the seafloor. Water does not thrash against him, it parts. When he stands in waist-high surf, the waves bend around his frames. The tide slows in recognition. The current listens. His crown rises like coral and plume, red and gold, cutting against the ocean air. Not vanity, but rank. Not decoration, but office. He governs sea salt. He governs ships. He governs routes, and routes shape destiny. The sea has been commerce, invasion, escape, exile, return. It has carried explorers and conquerors, traders and captives, dreamers and displaced. Ogwi presides over every crossing. He is the keeper of the passage, the witness of migration, the silent authority over the line between homeland and horizon. For the African diaspora, the Atlantic is not just geography, it is archive, it is grave, it is womb, it is rupture and survival intertwined. Millions crossed unwillingly, millions never saw land again, millions endured and carried memory forward. Within voodoo cosmology, the sea is threshold, a place where worlds meet and spirits travel. Offerings to Ogwi are set afloat in small boats and released into the open water. They are not placed on altars inside walls. They are entrusted to distance. If the sea returns the offering, it was refused. If it carries it outward, it was accepted. Even in ritual, the message is clear. The ocean decides. Agwe becomes more than a maritime spirit. He becomes the guardian of the scattered, protector of those who crossed and survived, keeper of those who did not. The Atlantic is not silent under his command, it remembers. Storms rise, and some say it is random weather. Others whisper that the sea corrects itself, that it refutes certain weights, that it rejects certain chains. Agwe does not rage without purpose. He commands. In ceremony, when he mounts a devotee, the posture changes. The body straightens. Movements become precise, controlled, naval. This is dignity in the bearing, authority in the gesture. He may salute, he may demand water. He may move as though standing on the deck of a ship no one else can see. His authority is not theatrical, it is discipline. He is often paired with La Sarine, the mermaid of death and longing. If she is the song that draws you to the sea, he is the structure that governs its currents. If she is seduction and emotion, he is sovereignty and protection. Together they embody the emotional and commanding halves of the sea, call and command, longing and law. Agwe's roots reach beyond the Caribbean. His essence echoes older West and Central African water traditions, river spirits, deep water guardians, forces of crossing and return. He carries ancestral continuity across oceans. Water was humanity's first mirror, its first road, its first boundary. Agwe stands within that paradox. He is not the wave that crashes for spectacle, he is the tide that endures. For a people dispersed by water, he represents strength without cruelty, authority without oppression, protection without noise. He does not shout across the sea. He stands within it, steady, unmovable, commanding routes no empire could fully control. The ocean still moves, ships still cross, and beneath every horizon line, the admiral watches. Akasha of Kemet, the queen who did not die. Now this story takes place in ancient Kemet, in an age before history had hardened to dates. An age where empires were still learning what they were, learning their power. Kemet was rising, pulling itself away from the older, darker traditions, blood rites, ancestral consumption, magic fed by death rather than memory. At the heart of this transformation stood a woman from beyond its borders, Akasha. She was not born of Kemet. She came from the lands of Sumer, Mesopotamia, where the first cities were built, where queens were not ornaments but institutions themselves. When she was wed to Enkil, the king of Kemet, the marriage was political, but the power she brought was real. Akasha did not rule from behind the throne. She was the throne's spine. Known as the queen of beauty and order, Akasha was spoken of as a devastating beauty, not a fragile beauty, not a decorative beauty, but a regal beauty. Her skin was dark and luminous, kissed by the sun of the south. Her body bore the symmetry of deliberate design. Her hair was worn in intricate braids, woven with gold, beads, and ritual markings, each braid a language of status, lineage, and intent. When she walked, people noticed. When she spoke, people listened. And when she ruled, things changed. Under Akasha and Enkil, Kemet began to cleanse itself. Cannibalism was outlawed. Blood sorcery was dismantled. The old shadow priesthoods were dragged into the light. And civilization mixed enemies along its way. Enter the Witch Sisters. Among those enemies were two ancient sisters, Maharet and Makari. Now their mother had been a very powerful witch, one of the old order, and when she died, the sisters followed their ancestral rites, preparing to consume her body, her brain, her flesh, in order to absorb her knowledge and power. To them, this was sacred. This was lineage. To Akasha, this was barbarism, and this was a crime. They were arrested, not gently, and they were beaten, dragged before the queen. And Akasha, did not show them mercy. She humiliated them publicly. She had them punished, scarred, and cast down, not as witches, but simply as criminals themselves. Now, this was not cruelty. This was policy, and the sisters never forgave her for that. The summoning of Amil. Now, Maharet and Makari retreated into exile, into the old places where these new laws did not reach them. And there, in rage and humiliation, they summoned Amil. Not a god, not a demon in the Christian sense, a blood spirit, ancient, feral, drawn to death, thriving in the cracks between life and decay. They did not ask Amil to kill Akasha. They asked him to torment her, to haunt her days, to fracture her sleep, to make her doubt her own mind. And Amil agreed. And the harassment began. Akasha began to suffer. Shadows moved when they shouldn't. Voices whispered without mouths. Objects shifted. Blood dreams plagued her sleep. And she knew what this was. An attempt at possession. A fight for her soul. And she resisted it. She resisted the spirit with her will alone, refusing to allow it to claim her. But Amil was ancient, powerful, and patient. And so he lingered. He fed on his proximity to her. The waiting was his gift. And then came the assassination. Again, civilization makes many enemies, and she had her share. And one day came the blades. An assassination attempt, political, coordinated, inevitable. Enkil was struck first. Akasha was then stabbed. As her blood spilled onto the stone, her body began to fail, and thus her soul rose. And that is the moment that everything broke. As Akasha crossed the threshold of death, Amil followed her, and this spirit latched onto her departing soul, not out of love, not out of design, but out of instinct, that of a predator. And when Akasha's soul tried to leave her body, Amil pulled it back in. They fell together, the spirit and the queen, back into the flesh. Her heart restarted, her wounds sealed, her blood changed, and Akasha awoke. Not alive, not dead, but bound. The first vampire queen. She arose as something new. Her senses shattered their limits. Her hunger was no longer her own. Her blood burned with foreign will. Amil was now fused to her, feeding through her, whispering through instinct, bound permanently for all time. Akasha had not chosen immortality. She had simply been denied death. The turning of Enkil. Enkil lay there dying, and Akasha refused to lose him. So she fed him her blood. And then Enkil died. And then horrifically, he rose. And in that moment, vampirism was born. Not from ambition, but from love and refusal to endure loss. The judgment on the witches. Akasha and Enkil hunted the sisters, sparing no expense. Maharet was found, and she was spared, but mutilated. Her eyes were destroyed, and she was cast into an endless exile. Makari was driven mad, sent wandering, carrying the seed of legacy in her, her survival ensuring the truth would never fully die. The old magic was not destroyed, but it was scattered. The martyrdom. Akasha did not seek godhood. She paid for reform with her eternity. She paid for civilization itself with her soul. She became the mother of monsters against her will, bound forever to a parasite born of ancient cruelty and modern resistance. She was not evil by origin. She is what happens when a woman stands between the old world and the future, and the future demands blood. The myth of Anansi and death. Now, this story comes from the AUM peoples of West Africa, where stories are not merely entertainment, but inheritance, passed from voice to voice, memory to memory, as carefully as names and bloodlines. Now, in this story, it speaks of the beginning, when the world was still simple and its rules had not yet hardened. And there was Anansi, the trickster, who was gifted by knowing many things. He knew how to listen when others spoke too much. He knew how to wait when others rushed forward blindly. He knew how to take a small advantage and turn it into a lasting gain. And this is why he survived. Anansi was not the strongest. He was not the bravest. He did not rule through force or command, but he was clever. And in a world shaped by consequence, cleverness carried weight. He was known by many other names, most notably the Spider. And oftentimes he appeared as a spider, other times as a man, often both at once. He moves between forms as easily as thought between ideas, because he represents the mind itself at work. He is the keeper of stories, the bringer of knowledge, the reminder that intelligence is a form of power. And through Anansi, wisdom is passed not through strength, but through attention. He was a trickster, but never a fool, a survivor, not a coward. Where others confront obstacles directly, Anansi goes around them. While others accept fate, Anansi tests it, gently, patiently, with curiosity sharpened into strategy. And so, in a world that listens to the clever, Anansi endures. The approach of death. Death did not arrive suddenly. It never does. Among the AUM, death is not a shout in the dark, but a quiet shift in the rhythm of living. It moves softly, announced not by noise, but by patterns, by things going slightly out of step. It appeared in the smallest ways, a stiffness in the joints that did not leave with rest, a wariness that lingered longer than it once had, a pause in the breath where there had never been one before. Time itself seemed to change. Days no longer stretched forward with the same generosity. The future felt closer, heavier, as if it had begun to lean inward. Death had entered the space, not as an intruder, but as a presence. And Anansi noticed, as he always did. He watched the signs without fear. He felt the shift without panic. Where others would have prayed or pleaded, Anansi observed. He was measured, he was calculated. Because to Anansi, this too looked like the problem with a shape. And if a thing had a shape, it could be understood. And if it could be understood, Anansi believed it could be solved. The trap. Anansi prepared carefully, not in haste and not in fear. He wove a web unlike any he had made before, not for insects, not for prey, but for possibility. Each strand was laid out with intention, measured against its silent self. Each knot was reinforced, not by strength, but with patience. This was not a hunter's web. It was a question cast into the shape of a trap. The web shivered faintly in the light, not because it was visible, but because it disturbed something deeper. It caught light the way that thought catches doubt, invisible to all but the most attentive eye. And it waited, already complete, already listening. When death came, it came as it always does, silent, patient, unquestioned. No warning preceded it, no force accompanied it. Death stepped forward, unaware that this space had already been altered, that the pattern it relied on had been interpreted. And then the web closed. Not violently, not suddenly. It gathered death in the way that a pause gathers breath. And for the first time, death was held. Not wounded, not threatened, just stopped. And the world hesitated. Breath lingered where it should have passed. Moments stretched thin, as if time itself were waiting for instruction. The final step, the one that always came, failed to arrive. The universe did not break. goddess who did not accept drought. In the late Bronze Age city of Ugarit, along the coast of what is now Syria, clay tablets are pressed with cuneiform signs that preserve one of the oldest storm myths in recorded history. Among those tablets was a story of Baal, the storm god, and within that story stands a figure who does not wait quietly for events to unfold. Her name is Anet. Now, Baal was not merely a god of thunder in this narrative. He represents rain, fertility, agricultural survival. In a region dependent on seasonal storms, Baal's vitality determines whether crops grow or fail. When Baal rises, the land flourishes. When Baal falls, droughts threaten everything. The Baal cycle describes a cosmic conflict. Baal clashes with Yam, the sea. Later, he confronts Mot, the god of death and sterility. These are not abstract enemies. Yam represents chaotic waters. Mot represents drought, dryness, the swallowing stiffness of death. And at one point in the narrative, Baal is defeated. Now, the text becomes fragmentary, but the message is clear. The storm god disappears. The rains cease. The agricultural cycle halts. And for a Bronze Age society, this is not symbolic drama. This is catastrophe. And this is where Anat enters with force. Anat is often described as Baal's sister. In some traditions, she is also his ally or consort. But the text makes one thing unmistakable. She is not subordinate. She is fierce, independent, emotionally intense. When Baal falls, Anat does not collapse into mourning. She reacts. The Ugaritic texts describe her rage in striking terms. She seeks out those who are responsible. She seizes enemies. She attacks without hesitation. The language is violent. She grabs warriors. She splits them. She scatters bodies. One passage describes her wading knee-deep in blood. Another describes her rejoicing in slaughter. This detail is uncomfortable for modern ears, but it tells us something important. In this world, violence carried out in defense of cosmic order is not shameful. It's necessary. Anat does not hesitate because hesitation would mean drought continues. She does not negotiate because negotiation does not bring rain. And myth does not portray her as irrational. It portrays her as decisive. The slaughter imagery is vivid, almost ritualistic. The battlefield becomes a space of sacred correction. Blood is not randomly cruel, it's restoration through force, through tribal theology. Anat's loyalty to Baal is absolute. When he is threatened, she becomes the weapon. But her most significant confrontation is not merely with human entities, is not merely with human enemies. It is with Mot. Mot is not simply a rival deity. Mot represents death itself, sterility, dry earth, the swallowing void that ends growth. So when Baal descends into the realm of Mot, drought grips the land. Anat searches for him. Now, the texts describe her journey into grief, but grief does not paralyze her. She confronts Mot directly. The fragment suggests imagery once again. Anat seizes Mot. She cuts him. She burns him. In some reconstructions, she grinds him and scatters him like grain. Even if the exact sequence varies due to damaged tablets, the symbolic pattern is unmistakable. She does not reason with death. She dismantles it. This is not a goddess of comfort. This is a goddess of intervention. The violence serves a purpose. Eventually, Baal returns. The storm resumes and rain falls. Thus, fertility is restored. Without Anat's ferocity, that restoration does not occur. Now, in the structure of myth, Baal may be the storm, but Anat is the enforcer of its return. She is not ornamental to the story. She is essential to the resolution. Now, archaeologically, her presence is not confined to myth alone. Inscriptions and cultic materials found in Ugarit confirms that she was actively worshipped. Kemetic or Egyptian texts mention her name. indicating a cross-cultural recognition. Later inscriptions referencing Anat Yahu suggest that her memory survived into adapted forms even beyond the collapse of Ugarit. But the Baal cycle remains her clearest portrayal. In that portrait, Anat is not the nurturing mother archetype familiar in many myth systems. She is tribal protector. She is the embodiment of loyalty carried to its extreme. Her joy in battle is not random cruelty. It reflects a worldview in which survival is fragile and threats are constant. The late Bronze Age Levant was not a stable world. City-states rose and fell. Agricultural cycles could fall. Warfare was common, and political alliances shifted. A society in that environment does not imagine divinity as passive. It imagines divinity as fiercely protective. Anat does not apologize for violence. She sanctifies it when it preserves order. This is a crucial distinction. Her brutality is not chaos. It's simply boundary enforcement. She defends Baal. She defends fertility. She defends continuity. And in that way, Anat represents a specific kind of sacred feminine power. Not romantic love, not cosmic abstraction, but embodied physical defense. Her myth forces uncomfortable questions. Can violence actually be sacred? Can destruction be restorative? Is loyalty more important than mercy in unstable societies? Now, from the authors of the Baal cycle, the answer appears to be yes. Anat's blood-soaked battlefield is not a moral failure. It is divine necessity. And that necessity restores the storm. When Baal rises again, the land breathes. Rain falls, crops grow, life resumes. The cycle continues. Anat does not claim the throne. She does not demand worship in the text climax. She recedes once balance is restored. The restraint is telling. She is not driven by conquest. She is driven by defense. Her violence has purpose, and when that purpose is fulfilled, she stands down. In comparative mythology, Anat stands apart because of the clarity of her ferocity. She is not softened. She is not reinterpreted as gentle. The tablets preserve her intense, unapologetic, and loyal. That preservation gives us a rare insight into the psychology of ancient culture. In a fragile world, survival is sacred. In a fragile world, protection may require force. Anat embodies the logic without hesitation. She is not storm, she is not fire. She is blade and blood in defense of continuity. In the Baal cycle, drought threatens civilization. Anat refuses to let drought win. And in that refusal, she becomes one of the most striking examples of the fierce, protective, feminine in ancient Near East. She is the goddess who did not accept death as final. She is the one who confronted drought with steel. She is Anat. A hymn to Hathor, the mistress of Dendera. Come forth, Hathor, Lady of Heaven, she who shines in the face of the sky, you who are called the Golden One, the Beautiful, the Beloved of Ra. You are joy before the heart remembers sorrow. You are music before the world learned to listen. When your feet touch the earth, life softens. Where your gaze rests, fear loses its grip. You are the smile that steadies the sun, the breath that calms the stormy eye. Come to your house at Dendera, O Hathor, that order may endure and that people may live. Hail to you, Hathor, Lady of Heaven, Mistress of all gods, Eye of Ra who shines in glory, Golden One who fills the two lands with beauty. You rise in joy, you set in peace. When you appear, all faces rejoice, all hearts are glad, for love walks in your footsteps. Lady of music, mistress of song and dance, the sistrum sounds for you, the men at rest on your breast. You gladden the weary, you lift the bowed head, you restore what the world has made heavy. When you are gentle, the land prospers. When you are distant, the sky trembles. Come to your house at Dundera, O beautiful one, that you may see your people, and that they may live. Hail to you, Hathor, Lady of the West, she who stands at the threshold of eternity. You receive the justified. You offer cool water to the weary soul. You place bread in the hands of the blessed. You welcome the traveler who has crossed in truth. No terror walks beside you. No cruelty dwells in your house. The dead rejoice to see your face, for you are the comfort of the West and the peace of those who have endured. O Hathor, may you open the way. May you speak kindly of the heart. May the soul rest beneath your sycamore. Thus Hathor is praised, not only as joy in life, but as mercy beyond it. May her name endure, may her light remain. The myth of Izanami and why death must remain unseen. Now, Izanami does not rule the dead because she chose to. She rules because love followed her where it should not have gone. In Japanese myth, death is not evil. It is contamination, a state that spreads where boundaries have been violated. Izanami is not terrifying because she dies. She is terrifying because she is looked at after death. Izanami and Izanagi create the world together. The land, the sea, the gods, and creation itself is intimate, cooperative, and sacred. So this is not a domination myth. This is a partnership. And then Izanami dies, giving birth to fire. It is painful, it is messy, and it feels wrong, as we watch creation claim its very first prize. But then we see love that refuses to let go, because Izanagi cannot accept her death. And this is the first mistake. So he descends into Yomo, the underworld, not to conquer, not to rescue the world, but to bring his wife back to life. This is not noble. It is selfish. He wants continuity where none is allowed. Izanami tells him not to look at her, not as a test, but simply as mercy. And then there comes the look that breaks all reality, because Izanagi looks anyway. What he sees is not a monster in the cinematic sense, but what he sees is rot, decay. This is the truth of what death does to the body when life has left it. The horror is not Izanami's form. The horror is that love demanded to see it, and in that moment, intimacy becomes violation. Izanami does not chase Izanagi out of rage alone. She chases him because he has broken the rule that keeps the worlds apart. Death must remain unseen because once you see it, you cannot unsee the effects of death. You cannot romanticize it. You cannot pretend love makes it safe. Izanami becomes death not out of malice, but out of necessity. And this is why Izanami must be sealed away. When Izanagi escapes, he seals Yami behind a boulder. This is not abandonment. It is truly containment. The living cannot coexist with unveiled death. Izanami promises to take 1,000 lives a day. Izanagi answers that he will create 1,500 more. It is not victory, it is called equilibrium. Life and death are no longer lovers. They are opposing processes. Hades teaches us that death is inevitable. Hell teaches us that death is final. Osiris teaches us that death continues. Izanami teaches us something much harder. Death is not meant to be witnessed up close by those who still love, because love will try to bring it back, and death will answer by spreading. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is not look back. Katrina, when death learned to smile. Before she wore flowers, before she became a face painted on the living, before her image danced through festivals and altars, there was one truth no one wanted to face. Death came for everyone. Kings and laborers, the adorned and the forgotten, those wrapped in silk and those wrapped only in earth. But the living feared death so deeply that they pretended it belonged only to the poor, the sick, the unseen. And so she appeared, not a monster, not a demon, but as a woman. La Katrina stood tall, bare-boned and beautifully dressed, wearing the elegance the living believed could save them. Her skull smiled beneath the fine hats and flowers, because no amount of gold could buy exception. She did not speak at first. She did not need to. Her presence alone was a lesson. She walked among the living during the days of remembrance, when the veil thinned and the dead were invited home. Children laughed at her image. Families placed candles and bread before her likeness. Music followed in her steps. And slowly, fear loosened its grip. La Katrina taught them something sacred. Death is not the interruption of life. It is the continuation of relationship. She carries no scythe. She demands no worship. She asks only to be remembered. Her flowers bloom in cemeteries because memory feeds the dead. Her painted eyes gaze gently because love does not end with breath. When names are spoken, when stories are retold, when laughter rises beyond grief, the dead rise again. Not in flesh, but in presence. La Katrina stands at the center of this exchange, not as a ruler, but as a hostess. She welcomes the ancestors. She reminds the living to eat, to drink, to dance, to live fully while breath still remains. Her smile is not mockery, it is mercy. She tells the living, do not hide from death. Do not rush past it in silence. Sit with it, decorate it, speak it, because when death is acknowledged, life becomes richer. And when the final breath comes, La Katrina will not arrive as a stranger. She will already be known, already honored, already smiling. Amoki, the guardian at the threshold. When the last breath leaves the body, there is no scream, no fire, no sudden darkness. There is confusion. The world does not end, it simply loosens. The ground no longer feels solid. The sky no longer answers. Voices echo without mouths. This is the space between, and it is here that Amoki waits. She does not chase the dead. She does not summon them. She stands at the place all paths must cross, where the living world thins and the ancestral realm begins to breathe. Amoki is not hidden. She does not need to be. Those who arrive feel her before they see her. A pressure, a stillness, a certainty that movement without permission is no longer possible. She is the guardian of the threshold, the keeper of passage, the one who decides whether a soul may continue forward or must turn back. In the time before her, souls wandered. They drifted into forests. They clung to homes. They followed bloodlines without rest. The living could not sleep, and the dead could not settle. So order was required. Not punishment and not fear, but order. Amoki was appointed not to rule the dead, but to protect the boundary. She carried no weapons, because none is ever needed. Her power is not force, simply permission. She speaks few words. She does not ask who you were in life. She does not care for titles, wealth, or praise. She listens for balance. She listens for truth. For whether your spirit understands that it has ended one journey and must begin another. Those who resist, who cling to breath, to flesh, to unfinished hunger, feel the weight of her gaze. Not anger, but correction. They are guided back, returned to dreams, sent to resolve what was left undone. Now those who accept, they feel something entirely different. Relief. Their fear loosens. Their memories soften. The noise of the living world fades. Amoke opens the way. Rivers appear, paths unfold, voices of the ancestors rise, not calling, but welcoming. This is not judgment. This is transition. Amoke does not decide who is good or evil. She decides who is ready. Through her, death becomes sacred. Through her, chaos is guided, not destroyed. Through her, the worlds remain separate and whole. And every soul, whether king or child, must one day stand before her. Not to beg, not to fight, but to listen. Because when Amoke steps aside, the ancestors are waiting. And when she does not, it is because the story is not yet finished. Myth of the Juggernaut and the stone that does not ask. Before there were heroes, before there were villains, before the world learned to name its disasters, there were forces. Not gods who asked for prayer, not spirits who bargained for belief, but powers that existed the way gravity exists, uninterested in opinion, unmoved by fear. Among these there was a presence known across dimensions, a crimson constant moving through reality like a slow apocalypse. Sidorak. He was not born, he did not rise, he did not fall. He advanced. When Sidorak passed, worlds bend, not because he hated them, but because resistance was meaningless. Mortals tried to understand him once. They failed. So instead, they learned to survive him. They carved warnings into stone. They sealed doors that were never meant to open. They bound a fragment of his will into a relic, not to worship it, but to contain it. And thus the crimson stone was hidden away, not as a gift, not as a test, but as a last mistake waiting for the right hands. The stone does not glow to lure the greedy. It does not whisper promises. It waits. Because Sidorak does not choose the worthy, it chooses the willing. Cain Marco was not a hero when he found the stone. He was not brave. He was not noble. He was a man shaped by absence. Absence of love, absence of belonging, absence of direction. All his life, Cain ran. He ran from his brother's shadow. He ran from expectations. He ran from the quiet truth that he had no place in the world. And when a man runs long enough, he does not seek peace. He seeks force. So when Cain touched the crimson stone, it did not ask his name. It did not test his heart. It answered the one thing he had already decided. The stone did not grant power. It removed doubt. In that moment, Marco Cain ceased to be a man in motion. He became momentum itself. Bone hardened, flesh anchored, the earth recognized him not as prey, but as impact. Sidorak does not possess him. Sidorak aligned him. And alignment is more terrifying than control, because control can be resisted. Alignment cannot. And thus was born the Juggernaut. Not a warrior, not a champion, but a force given legs. When he moves forward, the world yields. When he advances, walls forget their purpose. When he strikes, it is not merely anger, but inevitability. The Juggernaut does not hate. He does not judge. He does not pause to consider mercy. He continues. Many have tried to stop him, some with strength, some with magic, some with reason, and all learn the same lesson. You cannot defeat momentum by standing in front of it. You cannot argue with the landslide. You cannot negotiate with the storm. You cannot bring shame on an earthquake to make it stop its destruction. The juggernaut teaches an ancient truth humanity kept forgetting. Some power does not care why you stand in its way, only that you do. And yet, this is not a myth about destruction. This is a warning, because Sidorak does not walk the world by himself. He doesn't need to. He waits for hands that are tired of healing. He waits for hearts that have chosen force over growth. He waits for minds that mistake certainty for destiny. The Crimson Stone still exists, not buried in ruins, not locked in temples, but wherever someone decides that forward motion matters more than understanding, that the impact is easier than introspection, that becoming unstoppable is better than becoming whole. And when that choice is made, the stone listens, and it does not ask. The myth of Neith. In the multifaceted pantheon of the ancient Kemetic deities, one goddess stands out as a formidable and revered force. Neith, the protector goddess of war and hunting. Her statues were commanding and striking, depicting her with a muscular frame and fierce expression. In one hand she held a bow with an arrow ready to strike, while in the other she carried a shield emblazoned with powerful symbols. Neith was not just a goddess of brute strength. She was also known for her wisdom and strategic thinking in battle. She was seen as a protective figure by her worshippers, always watching over them and guiding them towards victory. This ancient Kemetic goddess holds a revered place in the society's history, with her worship spanning back to the pre-dynastic era. Her primary connection was with the city of Sais, situated along the Nile Delta, where her devotees built their religious center dedicated to her. Her name itself, Neith, translates to the one who is, an enigmatic title that symbolizes her multifaceted character and importance among the other deities of Kemetic beliefs. In some depictions, she is shown as a formidable warrior goddess, equipped with an enchanted and divine bow and arrows that themselves were woven from the thread of reality. She often wears a red crown adorned with crossed arrows, symbolizing her ties with combat, but more importantly, safeguarding. She was revered as the deity of hunting, weaving, and warfare. And she was also seen in some circles as the creator goddess, often connected to the original waters of disorder from which all existence sprung forth. Now, legend has it that Neith, this divine goddess, was the ultimate protector of both gods and humanity. It is said that she crafted the very world we live in, shaping every single living being with her powerful hands. Her presence was sought after to safeguard even the mighty sun god Ra on his daily voyage across the sky, ensuring his safe passage so that he could bring light and warmth to all. She was revered as the guardian of life, ensuring balance and harmony among all beings. Neith was a neter held in very high esteem, her name spoken with reverence and awe. She was known not only for her strength and power, but also for her wise and compassionate nature. Stories of her teachings and guidance spread far and wide, as she was revered as a teacher of knowledge and wisdom. In the myths surrounding her, she is credited with inventing both writing and the Meta-Neche, as well as weaving and other crafts. The people believed that she bestowed these gifts upon them to help guide them through their daily lives. She was seen as the patron goddess of weavers, and those skilled in the craft would often invoke her blessings for success in their work. Her presence could be felt in every loom, every thread carefully spun into intricate patterns under her watchful eye. Neith not only held the role of protector and teacher, but she was also closely tied to the afterlife and the journey of the soul to the underworld. Her presence exuded a sense of maternal warmth as she guided departed souls on their final voyage. She watched over them with a loving gaze, ensuring their safe passage into the realm of the gods beyond. Her gentle touch provided comfort to those who were leaving behind the earthly realm, granting them peace in their transition to the divine world. The weight of her responsibility was evident in her strong yet nurturing stance, embodying both strength and compassion in her role as guardian of the afterlife. A goddess of war and protection was a complex deity, having both a benevolent nature but holding back a fierce and formidable power within. When ancient Kemet faced danger and conflict, her name was evoked to bring forth defense and victory. Her presence towered over the battlefield like a mighty colossus with unbreakable determination. In one hand she held, as ever, her bow, made of pure gold, its arrows capable of piercing any obstacle. In the other she often held a staff imbued with ancient magic, ready to unleash spells and curses upon her enemies. Within the chaos of battle, Neith's divine wrath manifested itself, leaving destruction in its wake as she fought fiercely for her people's survival. In ancient Kemetic art, Neith is often depicted with that fierce visage as a triumphant goddess. One of the most well-known portrayals shows her standing with one foot planted firmly on the head of a vanquished enemy. This image exudes power and strength, symbolizing Neith's victory over chaos and evil. It serves as a constant reminder of her role as a protector and the defender of the Kemetic people. Her expression is stern and determined, her stance unwavering as she stands guard against any threats to her people's well-being. The intricate details of her headdress and garments add to her regal appearance, showing her divine status among the gods, or nectars as they were called. This depiction truly captures the essence of Neith as a formidable deity who will stop at nothing to ensure her people's prosperity. Now, Neith is also closely associated with the goddess Sekhmet, another powerful warrior goddess known for her role in warfare and destruction. Now, both goddesses were often invoked in times of war and conflict, with Sekhmet representing the fierce and vengeful aspect of war, while Neith embodied the protective and nurturing side. The myth of Neith reveals a complex and multifaceted deity who plays a vital role in ancient Kemetic religion and in society. As the protector goddess of war and hunting, she was revered for her strength, wisdom, and protective nature. Her statues hang to this day, always showing her ever-present bow slung on her back and her arrows at the ready. She was seen as a fierce warrior, capable of defending Kemet and its people from her enemies. Her braided hair adorned with feathers and symbols of power. But Neith was also known as a wise and compassionate teacher, depicted with a scroll in one hand and offering guidance to those seeking knowledge or direction. In death, she guided the souls of the deceased to the afterlife, her presence like a comforting beacon in the darkness. Neith's enduring legacy as a powerful and benevolent goddess continues to be celebrated and revered by modern scholars and enthusiasts of ancient Kemetic mythology, eager to uncover more about this enigmatic deity, the warrior goddess, blessed with the greatest of beauty and the sharpest of minds. Njord, Lord of the Quiet Sea. Not a god of thunder, not a god of war, not a god of apocalypse. Njord is a god you feel before you see. He arrives with the wind, not violent wind, the kind that fills sails, the kind that turns a stranded ship into motion, the kind that whispers, go. Njord is a god of the sea, but not the raging sea. He governs the open waters that allow passage. He governs trade routes, safe return, maritime wealth. He is the breath inside the Viking world. Without wind, there's no raids. Without ships, there's no empire. Without safe harbor, there's no survival. Njord is not conquest, he is circulation. He belongs to the Vanir, the older gods of fertility and abundance. Before the warrior gods dominated Norse myth, the Vanir ruled cycles, growth, prosperity. When Aesir and Vanir went to war, the conflict did not end in annihilation. It ended in exchange. Njord was sent to live among the Aesir as a peace hostage. Let's think about this. The god of wealth and wind becomes the bridge between divine families. He was not conquered, he was integrated. And from that moment forward, even the war gods depended on him. Nord is also father of two of the most powerful deities in Norse cosmology, Freyr and Freya. Freyr governs harvest, kingship, and peace. Freya governs love, desire, magic, and even claims half of the honored dead. Jord is the root of the prosperity line. He is the quiet patriarch and the fertility power. He is the most human story in his marriage. Njord marries Skandi, the goddess of winter. She loves the mountains. He loves the sea. They try to compromise. 9 nights by the ocean, 9 nights in the mountains. In the mountains, Njord cannot sleep. The wolves howl. The air is too sharp. But by the sea, Skandi cannot rest. The gulls scream. The waves never stop moving. They part ways, not from hatred, but from elemental incompatibility. Sea and stone, tide and frost. Njord is movement. Skandi is stillness, and stillness cannot hold the tide. Symbolically, Njord represents something rare in Norse mythology: stability without stagnation, prosperity without plunder, movement without chaos. He is not the storm, he is the space between storms. He is a god of flow, and flow is power, and he stands at the edge of Jord at sunrise. Long ships behind him, salt winds lifting silver hair, no lightning, no roar, just tide moving in and out. Njord does not command the sea, he understands it. And in that world obsessed with battle, the quiet sea outlasts the storm. The sacred sound Om, the vibration of creation. Om, sometimes written as Om, is one of the most sacred sounds in human spiritual history. It is not simply a sound, it is not merely a word. In ancient Indian philosophy, Om is considered to be the principal vibration of the universe itself. Across the traditions of Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Sikhism, this sacred symbol represents the cosmic sound of creation. It is believed to be the vibration which all existence emerged. In Sanskrit, the symbol for Om appears, but when spoken, Om is not actually a single sound. It is a sequence of 3 tones. AUM. These 3 sounds repeat the fundamental structure of reality itself. The first sound, A, pronounced Ah, this sound represents creation. It's traditionally associated with the god Brahma. In mythic symbolism, this sound represents the birth of the universe, the moment when existence began. It also represents a state of waking consciousness, the everyday awareness through which humans experience the world. The second sound is the U, pronounced U. This sound represents preservation. It is associated with Vishnu, the divine force responsible for sustaining the universe. Here the symbol shifts from birth to continuity. Life unfolds. Existence falls forward. In the human mind, the sound corresponds to the dream state, a realm where reality becomes fluid and imaginative. The third sound, the M, pronounced this vibration represents destruction, or more accurately, transformation. It is associated with the god Shiva. In mythical philosophy, destruction is never simply an ending. It is the necessary stage that allows creation to begin again. The final tone corresponds to the deep sleep state, where conscious minds dissolve and the individual self temporarily disappears. But the philosophy of Om does not end with the sound. After the chant of Om concludes, something important happens. There is silence. That silence represents a 4th stage of consciousness known as Turiya. Turiya is the state beyond walking, dreaming, and deep sleep. It represents pure awareness, the ultimate reality underlying the universe. In this sense, Om does not simply describe reality, it contains the entire structure of the consciousness. One of the clearest explanations of Om appears in the ancient philosophical text known as the Mandukya Upanishad. Despite being one of the shortest Upanishads, this text presents the most profound ideas of Indian philosophy. This Upanishad teaches that Om presents the totality of existence. It symbolizes the past, the present, and the future. It also represents something even stronger, that which lies beyond time itself. In other words, Om is understood as the sound form of the entire universe. The idea that the universe begins with sound is not unique to Indian tradition. Across cultures, myths of the creation often begin with speech, vibration, or sacred word. In Christian tradition, the opening of the Gospel of John famously declares, "In the beginning was the Word." In Egyptian, the creator Ptah was believed to have brought the world into existence through spoken word. Similarly, the wise Thoth was associated with sacred speech, writing, and magical words capable of shaping reality. These traditions all reflect a shared ancient belief. Sound has creative power. Om represents the purest and most abstract expression of that idea. The written symbol of Om also carries layers of meaning. Each element of the symbol presents a different state of consciousness. The large lower curve represents the waking world. The middle curve represents the dream state. The upper curve represents deep sleep. Above these curves sits a dot, symbolizing enlightenment. Separating the dot from the rest of the symbol is a small crescent shape. That crescent represents Maya, the illusion that prevents ordinary awareness from perceiving ultimate reality. For thousands of years, Om has been used as a meditative tool. Chanting Om is believed to calm the nervous system, regulate breathing, and focus the mind. The long, resonant sound creates a vibration that can be felt through the chest, throat, and skull. In meditation traditions, that resonance is thought to harmonize the body and mind. Many practitioners describe Om as functioning like mental tuning fork, helping consciousness settle into a slower, more stable rhythm. In modern times, some thinkers have drawn parallels between this ancient idea and scientific theories about the nature of reality. Physics tells us that matter is not truly solid. Atoms themselves are patterns of energy vibrating in space. From subatomic particles to distant galaxies, the universe operates through oscillating in frequency. Although ancient sages did not describe the universe using modern scientific language, their philosophical insight point towards similar ideas. Reality may ultimately be a field of vibration. Om symbolizes the fundamental tone of that cosmic resonance. Om represents existence itself. It appears everywhere within Indian spiritual structure. It can be found in temples, sacred texts, meditation halls, jewelry, and art. Many traditional mantras begin with Om. In modern mythological terms, Om is far more than just a symbol. It represents the breath of creation. It is the voice of the cosmos, the vibration underlying reality itself. Every mythology must answer the same question: how did the universe begin? In the philosophy of the Om, the answer is beautifully simple. The universe began with a sound. Poseidon, the earth shaker, the ocean king, the power beneath the waves. Now, back when there was only blackness as far as the eye could see, there was the sea. When time itself was just beginning to awaken, there was the sea. And beneath that, there was him. Poseidon was never gentle water. He is pressure, depth, impact, the force that reminds humanity that it does not own the world. Birth of a god. He is born to Kronos and Rhea, children of the Titans, heir to a brutal cosmic dynasty. Like his siblings, he was swallowed by Kronos, imprisoned in darkness, silenced before he could even speak. But fate cracks open the tyrant. Freed by his brother Zeus, Poseidon joins the rebellion, the Titanomachy, a war not of armies, but of existence itself. When the Titans fall, the cosmos is divided. Zeus claims the sky. Hades takes the underworld. Poseidon draws the sea, not as consolation prize, as a kingdom. The dominion of the deep. The Greeks do not see the ocean as peaceful. They saw it as unpredictable, generous one day, devouring the next. Poseidon commands the storm surge, the tidal fury, drowning silence, and the trembling of the earth itself. He is called Earth Shaker. When the ground splits beneath cities, that is not geology. That is a god striking the floor of reality with his trident. He creates horses from sea foam, wild, muscular, unstoppable creatures. Even his gifts are force incarnate. The contest for Athens. Power must be tested. When the city of Athens seeks a patron, Poseidon answers, and so does Athena. Poseidon strikes the rock of Acropolis with his trident. A spring bursts forth. Power, salt, sea strength. Athena plants an olive tree. Sustainability, civilization, strategy. The city chooses her, and Poseidon does not forget. The ocean around Greece never lets them forget either. The Trojan War. During the war at Troy, Poseidon does not sit neutral. He sides with the Trojans. He stirs waves to protect Greek fleets. He shakes battlefields. He reminds mortals that gods are not mascots. They are forces. Even the might of the heroes bends when he intervenes. Wrath against Odysseus. But his most personal fury is reserved for one man. Odysseus blinds his son, the Cyclops Polyphemus. The sea becomes a prison. For 10 years, Poseidon hunts him. Storm after storm, shipwreck after shipwreck, island after island. Not random misfortune, divine pursuit. Poseidon does not rage quickly. He endures, and so does his anger. He represents civilization's dependence on nature, the illusion of control, the power beneath structure, the reminder that stability rests on something wild. He is not evil, he is elemental. The Mediterranean did not belong to Greece. Greece survived because Poseidon allowed it. When ships vanish, when coastal lines tremble, when the seas roar without warning, the Greeks do not blame chance. They look to the horizon, and they see a king beneath the waves, and his trident is never far from the surface. The Daughters of Mara. The final trial for the Buddha as he sat beneath the Bodhi tree. Now, these three daughters all worked in the domains of seduction, disruption, and emotional manipulation. And their most famous target was, of course, Siddhartha Gautama. Their mission was tied to their father's force. He had already tried storms, demons, armies of fear, and none of them had moved him. So he sent something that was far more precise, and these were his daughters, because no warrior is undefeated until he has defeated himself. Now he sent first Tanha, who was thirst, and she was not aggressive, she was not loud. She becomes everything Siddhartha ever loved. She is comfort, memory, the warmth of the palace that he had left behind. She reminds him of what it is to have pleasure without shame. She whispers of reunion. She offers relief from the severity of awakening. And her weapon is longing. But the Siddhartha Buddha does not react to this. He watches the feeling rise and pass, and Tanha fades away. And then there is Raga, who is the flame. And Raga does not whisper, she burns. She dances before him with this radiant beauty. She shifts form. She is youthful, divine, cosmic. She magnifies sensation. She tries to awaken not memory, but hunger. She is passion without restraint. She is attachment disguised as devotion. But Siddhartha sees the chain hidden inside of her embrace. He does not recoil. He does not engage. He remains still, and Raga cannot bind what does not grasp. So she dissolves. Then comes Arati, who is discontent, and she does not seduce. She mocks. What are you doing here? This is pointless. You are wasting your life. She attacks discipline itself. She sends boredom, restlessness, irritation, doubt. The quiet voice that sabotages commitment. But Siddhartha does not argue with her. He does not defend himself. He remains still. And without reaction, Arati has no fuel. And she disappears. When all the three fail, their father demands proof of witness. And Siddhartha touches the earth, and the ground itself bears witness. And at that moment, Mara and his daughters lose their hold. Not because they are destroyed, but because they are all understood. The night on Route 3. September 19th, 1961. It's just after midnight, northern New Hampshire. The road is narrow and dark, cutting through forest that hasn't decided whether it wants to belong to the night or to the moonlight. Pine trees line both sides, tall and close, their tops catching just enough pale silver light to be visible. The air is cool and clean, the kind that sharpens your breath when you inhale. Damp earth, resin, the faint sweetness of leaves beginning to rot. There is no traffic, no distant glow. So when the car moves, it feels like the only thing awake. Barney Hill drives with both hands on the wheel, straight-backed, quiet. His eyes move constantly. Road, mirrors, tree line, sky. He's not tense, but he's never careless. Night has taught him to stay attentive. Betty sits behind him, relaxed, talking off and on, letting silence settle when it needs to. She's wearing a simple dress, soft fabric, nothing fancy. Shoes meant for walking, not for running. The kind you forget that you're wearing. The moon hangs low and steady, not dramatically, not ominously, just present. It flattens distance, it stretches shadows, it makes the forest feel closer than it really is. That's when Betty notices the light. At first, it's barely worth mentioning. A bright point above the tree line, steady and white. She almost ignores it, but something about it just doesn't sit right. It doesn't twinkle, it doesn't blink. She points it out. Barney glances up, and the light moves. Not drifting, not falling, but adjusting. It slides across the sky with intent, correcting its position as if responding to them. The air inside the car feels heavy all of a sudden, like pressure before a storm that never comes. They keep driving, and the light keeps pace. It doesn't rush, it doesn't lag. It simply remains. Closer now, lower than it should be. Its glow is contained, dense, almost solid, not spilling onto the night, but pressing against it. And Barney slows. The road curves around Indian Head Mountain. The forest tightens. Moonlight breaks into pieces between the branches. So he pulls over. The engine cuts. Metal ticks softly as it cools. The silence afterward is immense. Barney steps out of the car, gravel shifting under his shoes. The smell of pine is sharper here, but it's mixed with something else, faint, metallic, like ozone. The air feels thick, charged, alive. He raises the binoculars. The object is close now, too close. Disc shape, smooth, no wings, no seams, no sound. It hovers without effort, light pulsing softly within it, not bright enough to blind, but impossible to ignore. And then he sees the windows, and behind them, figures. Upright, humanoid, still. Their faces are pale. Their eyes are large and dark, unblinking. They don't react when he notices them. They don't move closer or further away. They just watch. The gaze lands on him with weight. Not curiosity, not threat, but assessment. Something cold moved through Barney's chest, sharp and immediate. This is not imagination. This is not confusion. And this is not fear of the unknown. This is recognition of being outmatched. He lowers his binoculars and runs. Gravel skids beneath his feet. His breath comes fast. His heart hammers. He doesn't shout. There's no time for that. He gets back into the car and drives. Betty doesn't blink. She doesn't react. They pull onto the road, tires crunching, engine roaring too loud for a quiet forest. The light moves with them, keeping pace, floating alongside it as if the road meant nothing to it. And then the sound. Beep, beep, beep. It's not loud. It doesn't echo, but it vibrates. The steering wheel hums under Barney's hands. The seats tremble. The vibration climbs through the frame of the car and into their bodies, settling into their eyes, tightening the jaws. The air tastes metallic. Betty's ears ring. Her skin prickles. The forest blurs. And then there is no road. There is no sky. There is no memory. Time doesn't slow. It just disappears. When awareness returns, the car is moving. The road stretches ahead, empty and familiar. The forest looks unchanged. The moon hasn't moved nearly enough, but 2 hours are gone. Betty looks down at herself. Her dress is torn at the hem, fabric pulled and stretched. Dirt smears her shoes in places she doesn't remember stepping. Barney's shoes are scuffed too, at the toes. Not worn, but they look dragged. His watch is dead. The second hand is frozen mid-tick. They don't talk about it, but they drive. When they reach home, the house feels smaller than it should. Too quiet. Out inside the lock. Inside, the familiar smells of wood and fabric settle around them. But underneath all that is something sharp and thin, like a place they didn't bring with them, but didn't leave behind either. Betty changes clothes slowly. She runs her fingers over the tears in her dress, trying to remember what happened. Barney sits at the edge of the bed, staring at his hands. His jaws tight. His shoulders stay raised long after there's nothing to brace for. That night, sleep comes unevenly. Betty dreams, not fragments, not symbols, but clear scenes, repeating. Lights without shadows, narrow corridors, figures who don't speak but somehow answer. A room where she lies still while something examines her. Not cruel, not gentle, but precise. She wakes with her heart racing and the feeling that something has just stepped away. Barney doesn't dream. He lies awake, listening to the house breathe. Every sound feels too close. When he closes his eyes, he sees the eyes again, unblinking, calm and certain. Days pass, then weeks. They try not to talk about it, but the silence grows heavy. Certain smells bring it back, certain sounds, the way the night feels when it's too still, when the air seems to pause. Sometimes Betty finds herself staring at the sky longer than she means to. Sometimes Barney wakes feeling tense, his fists clenched, his body remembering something that his mind refuses to hold. And life continues, but something remains open. Some nights, when the road outside is empty and the world feels held in place, it feels just like it did in New Hampshire, like the air is waiting, like the dark is paying attention. And once you felt that, once you felt the vibration settle in your bones, once you know what it's like to be seen without being known, you don't forget. You learn how to live with this lesson. And this is a story of the alien myth. The sun hung low, a smoldering orb cloaked in the dusky robes of twilight. Ra's celestial barge had navigated the horizon's edge, now mooring at the confluence of the eternal river and the sea of stars. His divine form shimmered with the remnants of the day's light as he stepped onto the shores of the Netter's hidden abode. Every night he was locked into a life and death struggle with Apep, the great chaos snake. It taxed his great strength, and even he wondered what the outcomes would be each night. He sought to shore up the security of order, to make safe the world for all. So he would consult with his two greatest advisors, Aset, who was the Netter of magic, and Jehudi, who was the Netter of wisdom. Great Aset, Ra began, his voice resonating with the gravity of his ages. Apet's malice grows ever more cunning. Her latest spawn, a serpent gifted with a darkness so deep it could devour the dawn. It threatens to unravel the tapestry of creation itself. Aset, her eyes reflecting the depth of the cosmos, nodded silently. She was the essence of wisdom, her presence an anchor in the tumultuous sea of chaos that threatened to engulf the world. My lord Ra, she replied, her voice a soothing melody amidst the cacophony of celestial warfare. To combat such guile, we require a defender, a being whose nature is attuned to the serpentine form, one who can slither through shadow as effortlessly as light dances upon the Nile. Ra's gaze met her, the spark of creation flickering in his eyes as he weighed her counsel. Within his vast intellect, the cogs of possibility began to turn, crafting the image of his new guardian from the ethereal threads of thought. Jehudi stood by silent and observant, his countenance calm as the surface of a moonlit pool. This Netter, who was the scribe of the heavens, bore an expression that belied the keen intellect beneath his furrowed brow.
"Speak, Jehudi," Ra asked, the urgency of his plight infusing potency into his words. "Your insight has often proved to be invaluable." "Lord of Light," Jehudi said, his voice measured and clear, "if balance is to be restored, we must conceive a being not only aligned with the snake, but also capable of outmatching its primal cunning. You must weave for us a creature that embodies the grace and lethality required to stand as your sentinel." Ra absorbed the wisdom authored by his two trusted advisors, his heart quivering with the anticipation of creation. The thought of fashioning a new life form sparked a wildfire within the heart of his soul, a blaze that was yearning to be shaped into existence. "Then let it be so," Ra declared, the firmament echoing his resolve. The air around them thrummed with potential, waiting for the command that would birth a new legend. "Then let us convene the powers at our disposal," Osset suggested, her gaze piercing the veil of uncertainties. "Together, we shall forge this protector in the crucible of our combined wills, so she may rise as the embodiment of our hope." "Indeed," Ra murmured, his thoughts coalescing into determination. "A new defender would emerge, one whose essence would be as enigmatic as the night sky from which it was born, a champion to stand against the encroaching tide of chaos." In the sanctum of eternity, where time wove its endless dance, Jehudi stood with a presence that seemed to bend the very air with his wisdom. His eyes, reflective as the moon's surface, turned inward as he contemplated the shape of salvation. The silence hung heavy in the air, pregnant with the weight of impending creation. "Let us look at the natural world," Jehudi offered, breaking the stillness, his voice carrying the timbre of ancient tomes. "The snake coils and strikes with lethal intent, yet there exists one who treads upon the snake with innate sovereignty." All eyes fell upon the wise Neter, their gazes wondering at the thoughts in his head. Osset's lips parted slightly in anticipation, a silent beckoning for the knowledge poised on Jehudi's tongue. "The cat," he pronounced. The word itself seemed to claw its way into reality, sharp and full of primal instinct. Osset's expression shifted, a subtle play of intrigue and respect. "Yes, the cats are poised, and their elegance belies their ferocity. They hunt with a silence that whispers death itself." "Indeed," Ra murmured, his own thoughts mirroring the night sky, vast and dotted with the stars of possibility. The eye of the cat resonated within him, its potential energy crackling against his divine essence. "Call upon Seshet," Jehudi spoke, his decree resounding like a gravel upon the pillars of the world. "She shall inscribe the blueprint of this life, the sacred geometry from which our defender will emerge." "Her claws will be the bane of scales," Ra envisioned, feeling the stirring of creation ripple within him, a surge of warmth akin to the first rays of dawn. The room quivered with the invocation of Seshet's name, and there she was, appearing as if summoned by sheer force of necessity. Her gaze was as infinite as the library she kept, figure wrapped in robes, scribed with the knowledge of the ages. "Great Seshet, weaver of destinies, architect of cosmic order." Ra addressed her with reverence, the air around them charged with expectations. "We seek to cast a new thread into the tapestry of existence, one that is both of the earth and beyond it." "Speak, O Sun King," Seshet responded, her voice the whisper of papyrus leaves. "Craft for us a being that encapsulates the essence of the cat, a guardian with eyes to pierce the shadow, a hunter to balance the threat that slithers in the darkness," Ra intoned, each word an ember igniting the path of future events. Seshet nodded, her hands poised above the material form that fates were woven. She began the intricate task, each movement deliberate, each symbol imbued with the essence of divine will. As she wrote, the dimensions of the room itself seemed to fold into the narrative that she created. Reality, bending to accommodate the birth of this new legend. "Her spirit will be fierce, untamed by the sands of time," Jehudi whispered, his eyes reflecting the image of his imminent savior. "Her form, lithe and agile, a testament to the dance between life and death." "May her vigilance be unwavering," Osset added, the slightest smile gracing her lips as she herself envisioned the graceful terror that they were about to unleash on their age-old nemesis. "And thus Bastet will come to be," Ra declared. In that moment, all present could feel the shift. A new power stirring, ready to spring forth into the realm of netters and men. Sechet's cosmic pen met the parchment, a mere whisper against its virgin surface. The nib, dark as the void between stars, exuded ink that seemed to pull the very light from the room, swirling itself with potentiality. Her fingers danced with practiced grace, each letter an invocation, each word a layer of muscle and myth. The air crackled in anticipation, heavy with their divine intent. "Let her be swift," Sechet murmured, her voice low but clear, reverberating through the chamber like an incantation. "As quick as thought, as silent as the night." Jehudi stood nearby, his gaze fixed on the unfolding creation, his mind already weaving the spell into his spellbook. With each stroke of Sechet's pen, he etched the corresponding symbols into his tome, the golden glyphs glowing softly against the ancient papyrus. "Her claws shall be the spears of heaven, sharp enough to cleave shadow from light," Jehudi intoned, his voice harmonizing with the scratching of the pen. "May she never know defeat," Sechet continued, her hand steady while her heart thrummed with the weight of what they were about to bring forth. She could feel Bastet's presence taking form, a phantom touch at her senses, a purr resonating within the walls of her soul. "Let her eyes hold the green of light, the emerald promise of dawn," Jehudi added, his own eyes reflecting the nascent veracity he imagined. His fingers paused in their meticulous transcription, allowing himself a moment to marvel at the certainty with which Sechet wrought destiny itself. "Her fur," Sechet whispered, a smile tugging at the corners of her mouth. "Let it simmer with the darkness of the chaos, an endless night where stars go to play." She felt a shiver of power course through her, the paper beneath her hand now alive with the energy of their collective will. "Indeed," Jehudi murmured, resuming his careful inscription, "she will be both beauty and terror, a force to reckon with the chaos that coils at our doorsteps." His thoughts flitted to the serpent, Apep, and the dread it inspired in the hearts of men and netters alike. Bastet would be their answer, the counterbalance to entropy's insidious crawl. "Let her name resonate through the ages," Sechet said, the final stroke of her pen sealing the birth of this new netter. "Bastet, daughter of the sun, shield of Ra, the cat of our creation." "Her tale will be told," Jehudi declared, closing his book with a sense of finality, the new spell nestled securely within its pages. "And let her hunt begin this very night." The chamber of creation was awash with tension that crackled like static against skin, a place where the very fabric of reality seemed pliable and responsive to the wills of those who stood within its bounds. Atum Ra, the embodiment of the primal force of existence, hovered at its center. His presence was commanding, an anchor to the swirling energies that emanated from his divine form. Within him surged the power of life itself, the kernel of order amidst the encroaching chaos. "Let us begin," Ra intoned, his voice resonating through the chamber as he drew forth a scintillating orb from the core of his being. It pulsed like a heart, the rhythm of creation beating within it. A small sun that blazed with wildfire's ferocity, casting shadows that danced frenetically across the walls. Aset, her eyes reflecting the brilliant glow, stepped forward with a grace that belied the urgency of their purpose. "From the breath of Atum Ra," she began, her voice weaving into the tapestry of light, "we call forth the defender, the balance to the darkness we seek to devour." Jehudi, ever the scholar, his gaze alight with wisdom of countless eons, joined in the incantation. "From the mind of Sechet, we shape the formless into form," he declared, his words an echo of the spirit that now lay dormant within his tone, awaiting for the breath of life. Atum's thoughts focused on the task at hand, the energy within his grasp malleable beneath the weight of their collective intentions. He could feel the pressure of the void pushing back, the unseen menace that lurked just beyond the edges of light. It was a battle fought not with swords, but with the very essence of what they were. The thought of Apep, the never-ending threat, fueled his resolve. This creation must succeed, he urged silently, feeling the weight of destiny on them all. "Bind the light to our will," Ra's voice commanded, a fusion of his godly might and mortal determination. "Shape it as a hunter, sleek and silent, a shadow against shadows." His words hummed in the air, wrapping around the glowing orb, infusing it with purpose. "Let the heart of Atum Ra ignite the spark," Aset whispered, her outstretched hands challenging the nurturing aspect of her divinity, coaxing the wild energy to coalesce into something more tangible, more alive. Let the wisdom of Jehudi guide the spirit, Atum added, the power within him reaching a crescendo as he felt the first stirrings of consciousness flicker within the nascent form. Let the craftsmanship of Seshet give it form, Jehudi uttered, the finality in his tone a testament to the gravity of their creation. Together their voices swirled, a chorus of deific intent that reverberated through the chamber, bending the divine energy to their will. The orb responded, its surface rippling like liquid starlight as it began to stretch, to mold, to take shape under the guidance of these combined nectars. Let this be enough, Atum willed, pouring the last of his energy into the fledgling nectar, willing her into existence. Bastet, the answer to their prayers, the embodiment of celestial might and earthly cunning. She would face Apep this night, and every night thereafter, a guardian against the encroaching dark, born of their hopes and their fears, their power and their wisdom. The chamber of creation thrummed with the power of the ancient deities, a sacred place where stars were born and destinies forged. Within its confines, the essence of divinity itself coalesced, responding to the summoning words of the nectars whose voices wove the fabric of existence. Behold, Jehudi murmured, his eyes reflecting the depth of the universe, the dawn of our protector, the cat of Ra. The orb of raw celestial fire that had pulsed between them now began to undulate with purpose, the blackness of the void knitting itself as it spun by the loom of fate. Ossette's lips curled in a silent prayer, her thoughts twinning with the energy, nurturing it with the tender care of a mother for her own child. From chaos, order, from darkness, light, Osset intoned, her voice a melodic thread in the tapestry of spellcasting. Atum Ra, a titan among them, felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders like a cloak woven from the night sky. It was a sensation both familiar and unsettling. Each act of creation, a gamble against the entropy that Apep sought to spread. His heart beat in time with the rhythm of the cosmos, a drum heralding the arrival of a new force in the internal struggle. Let her be steadfast, he whispered to himself, a bulwark against the serpent's wrath. As their incantations reached a crescendo, the shape within the fiery orb crystallized, limbs stretching forth, a sleek body forming from the nebulous energy. Whispers of starlight clung to her form like dew on morning grass, until she stood before them in all her nascent glory. Bastet, the cat of Ra. Welcome, daughter of the sun. Atum's voice resonated with pride and anticipation. Your hunt begins tonight. Bastet's first shimmered, a tapestry of the night sky rendered upon her graceful frame. It was a black so profound, so saturated with the mysteries of the cosmos, it seemed to swallow light whole, only to release it in subtle glints that mirrored the twinkling of distant stars. Her presence filled the chamber, a tangible assertion of life that none could deny. Your essence is forged of the very heavens, Jehudi observed, his gaze analytical, yet not without warmth, a fitting garb for the guardian of Ma'at. Osset stepped forward, the lines of concern etching her face, softening as she beheld the nectar they had brought. In you, Bastet, we entrust the balance of all things. May your vigilance shield us all from the chaos that seeks to devour our world. May my claws strike true, Bastet responded, her voice a purr of determination. Her form was poised, a dancer waiting for the music to begin, the music of battle, of survival, of an unending war waged beneath the vault of heaven. Atum Ra felt the tension ease from his own form, a quiet satisfaction blooming within him. They had created a champion, a divine sentinel. Yet even as hope flickered within him, the shadow of doubt lingered, a reminder that the morrow was fraught with uncertainty. Tonight you will face the snake, he declared, his tone carrying the gravity of the duty bestowed upon her. And with each dawn we shall rise again, strengthened by your courage and your skill. In the silence that followed, Bastet moved, a creature of grace and deadly intent, her every motion a testament to the purpose for which she had been birthed. The cat of Ra. The cat of Ra, a legend-given form, prepared to stalk through the annals of time as protectress of order, her black fur and mantle of the infinite, her will an unbreakable spear against the dark. With a turn of her head, Bastet caught the flickering torchlight in her gaze. It sparkled across the vernet pools of her eyes, igniting them with otherworldly fire that mirrored the fervor of Ra's own celestial flame. The light danced within those emerald depths, casting lustrous shadows over the contours of her face. Your beauty is not just a gift, Ra spoke, but a weapon to beguile and distract your adversaries. Bastet inclined her head, acknowledging the compliment and the hidden wisdom within. She knew her allure was as much a part of her arsenal as the claws sheathed within her paws. Moving with fluid grace, she approached her father, her sleek form reflecting the subtle glow of divinity. Beauty can disarm the strongest foe, she murmured, her voice soft, yet laced with steel. Her thoughts, though veiled from the others around her, spun with strategic precision. Let Apep gaze upon me and falter, she mused. Let the serpent be ensnared by vanity before the strike. Indeed, Atum agreed, watching her with a blend of parental pride and tactical appraisal. But never forget, it is your spirit, fierce and indomitable, that truly defines you. Bastet's tail twitched in response, a subtle gesture of her readiness and resolve. She envisioned the battles ahead of her, her mind weaving through scenarios, each potential movement etched with clarity. In the silent dialogue within herself, she rehearsed the dance of combat, envisioning the serpent's death with each calculated step. Let us hope Apep is as susceptible to beauty as he is to venom, Jehudi injected, his tone carrying the hint of an impish smile. For if charm fails, your teeth and claws shall speak more convincingly. Aset watched, her gaze contemplative, sensing the currents of power converging within Bastet. And speak they well, she said softly, almost a whisper, yet carrying the certainty of prophecy. The chamber seemed to hold its breath, awaiting the clash of titans, this eternal struggle between order and chaos. Bastet, however, stood serene amidst a storm of anticipation. Her beauty, ethereal and commanding, was but the serene surface of a fathomless lake. What lay beneath was a warrior's heart, ready to rise with the fury of a tempest. Then let my presence be both bane and blessing, she vowed, the green of her eyes darkening with purpose. For I am Bastet, the cat of Ra, and my radiance shall be the last light the shadow of Apep beholds before the end. Your adversary slithers in the realm of twilight, cloaked in dread and malice, Atum Ra intoned. Are you prepared to face the spawn of chaos? Bastet's response came not in words, but a subtle shift of her stance. She moved with the grace that belied the lethal purpose of every sinew in her body. The green of her eyes reflected the flame's dance, brimming with the predator's focus. She let her awareness expand, imagining the cold scales of Apep, the undulating horde that sought to unwind creation itself. Preparation is my nature. My senses are attuned to the whispers of scaled and stone, a rustle of dark intent amidst the stillness. Then this will be a testament to your prowess, Jehudi observed, his tone laced with wisdom. Let the hunt begin, and may the balance tip in the favor of Ma'at. As she listened, Bastet's thoughts weaved through the landscape of her nascent memory, recalling the divine incantations that had breathed life into her form. She was a testament to their combined wills, a guardian birth to counter the serpent's menace. Tonight you will chase down fear itself, Aset whispered, a breeze that stirred the embers of Bastet's resolve, and you will emerge as both shield and spear for those who dwell beneath the sun. Let the stars bear witness, Bastet vowed, her words a velvet caress that veiled a core of steel. I am the hunt incarnate, the unseen terror of the night. By dawn, the serpent shall know defeat. With a fluid motion, Bastet rose, every movement a testament to her role as a protector, as avenger. Her eyes narrowed, now mirrors of the Vernet deep, reflecting a destiny written in the heavens. Go forth, Bastet, Atum Ra commanded, his voice an ancient rumble that seemed to shake the very earth. Let the darkness tremble at your approach. She prowled toward the threshold of the chamber, where the boundary between the divine and the mortal blurred. There she paused, tail flicking with poised readiness. Her heart was a drumbeat, rhythmic and sure, echoing the pulse of the cosmos. Tonight, she thought, feeling the inevitability of the confrontation coursing through her, I am the balance that tips the scales. Tonight I am the hunter, and the snake shall be my prey.
Pele, goddess of fire, creation, and jealousy. Before the islands had names, before stone remembered the shape of mountains, before land dared to rise above the sea, there was only movement. The ocean whirled endlessly, dark and conscious, and within it traveled a force that refused stillness. Her name was Pele. She was not born in one place. She emerged again and again, from flame, from hunger, from the deep furnace of the world. Pele was fire with intention. Her hair flowed like smoke caught in the wind, black and endless, carrying embers in its wake. Her skin glowed as if lit from within, sometimes warm as sunlit stone, sometimes red hot with fury. Her eyes were not gentle. They burned with the knowing of something older than fear. Where Pele walked, the earth opened. She carried fire not as destruction, but as becoming. Lava spilled from her footsteps, slow and unstoppable, reshaping the world without apology. The sea hissed when she approached, retreating from her heat, recoiling from her will. But Pele was not alone in the world. Beneath the waves, where light dies and pressure rules, dwelled her sister, Namaka. Namaka was the ocean given thought. Her skin shimmered like moonlight on black water. Her hair moved as currents move, slow, heavy, inexorable. Her eyes were deep, ancient, and cold with memory as only the sea could have. Where Pele burned with emotion, Namaka endured with patience. She ruled the deep places, the trenches, the crushing silence, where nothing escapes gravity or consequence. And she resented her sister. When Pele arrived, the sea was pushed back. Where fire rose, water was displaced. Each new land Pele created was a wound in Namaka's domain. To Namaka, Pele was reckless, too loud, too hungry, too disruptive. To Pele, Namaka was suffocating, a force that drowned passion, swallowed movement, and demanded stillness. They were not enemies born of hatred. They were sisters born of opposition. Fire that must move, water that must contain. When Pele first settled, she believed she could build a home. She dug into the earth, carving chambers for her flame, shaping mountains from molten stone. She believed the land would hold her. But Namaka would not allow it. With crashing waves and rising tides, Namaka answered. She flooded Pele's home, cooled her lava, shattered her growing islands, and dragged them back into the sea. Storms followed Pele wherever she lingered too long. Island after island, Pele was driven away. Each retreat hardened her. Each loss sharpened her jealousy, not of her sister's power, but of her sister's stability. Namaka already had a kingdom. The ocean accepted her without resistance. Pele had to fight for every inch of ground. And still, she moved forward. She crossed the sea again and again, chased by waves, hunted by storms, carrying her fire across the dark. What humans would later call volcanoes are the scars of this journey, places where Pele tried to stay and was forced to flee. And then at last she reached Hawaii, the youngest island, the strongest spine of the stone. Here the earth did not break beneath her, it answered. Pele dug deep, deeper than she ever had before. She struck the mantle of the world itself, tapping into the planet's heart. Fire surged upward and stayed. Namaka became, again, furious. Waves slammed against the stone, storms tore at the land, but this time the land endured. Fire and water clashed, not to destroy each other, but to define their boundaries. And Pele remained. She claimed the volcano as her body and the island as her spine. She did not rule from the sea or the sky, she ruled from beneath. The people felt her presence in trembling ground, in glowing rivers of lava, in the fertile soil that followed destruction. Pele was not cruel, but she was emotional. She loved fiercely. And when she loved, she gave warmth, growth, and abundance. Forests returned when the lava had cooled. Life sprang that appeared to be dead. The people learned to honor her, to respect her fire, to speak her name with care. Because Pele was also jealous. When she was disrespected, when love was betrayed, when humans forgot the land was alive, her anger rose. Lava flowed without mercy, villages vanished beneath molten stone. It was not punishment, it was correction. Pele did not destroy out of hatred. She destroyed because stagnation is a lie. Fire clears what no longer serves, and creation requires sacrifice. Namaka watched from the deep, no longer chasing her sister, but never forgiving her. The ocean still presses against the land, testing it, reminding Pele that nothing remains unchallenged forever. They are still bound. Fire rises, water answers. The world is shaped between them. Even now, Pele sleeps beneath the islands. Not gone, not silent, but waiting. Because fire never truly rests. The origin of the five sons. Now this myth belongs to the Mexica people, often called the Aztecs, and these people understood time not as a straight path, but as a turning wheel. To them, the world did not begin once, nor was it destined to end only once. Creation was an act that could be repeated. Destruction was not a failure of the gods, but a condition of existence. And in this tradition, the world is sustained through balance, and balance is never permanent. When forces fall out of alignment, when power grows too rigid, when knowledge spreads beyond containment, or when the earth itself just grows weary, the age that holds the world comes to an end. What follows is not emptiness, but renewal. The Mexica called each age a sun. A sun is not only the light in the sky, it is the order by which life is arranged. It governs how people live, how the gods rule, and how the earth responds to both. Each sun carries its own laws, its own expectations, and its own failures. Now, according to this cosmology, 4 suns rose and fell before this present age. Each was shaped by a different ruling force, and each ended when the force could no longer sustain the world it had made. These endings were not sudden accidents. They were the natural conclusion of imbalance left uncorrected. Now, the passing of a sun does not mean the death of everything. Life changes form. Memory does not entirely vanish. Traces remain in the land, in the sky, and in the people who come after. And for this reason, the present world is not separate from those that came before it. It is built upon their remains. Now, the current age is known as the 5th age, the sun of movement. It endures not because it is strong, but because it is fed. Its motion is constant, its ground uncertain. Unlike the worlds before it, this sun survives only through continuous offerings, binding the fate of the gods and humanity together in a form of dependence. The 5 suns are not merely stories of the past. They explain why the earth moves, why catastrophe returns in cycles, and why stability must be earned again and again. To understand the suns is to understand that the world is not guaranteed. It is held together by effort, sacrifice, and restraint, and it can be unmade. What follows is the account of those suns, the worlds that rose, the forces that rule them, and the ways in each one came to its own end. The first sun, the age of strength. Now in this world the earth was firm and unyielding, and the sky hung low, as if watching what walked beneath it. The people of the first sun were tall and powerful, shaped in the image of the force that ruled them. Their limbs were heavy with muscle, their voices carried far across the plains, and their heart did not know hesitation. Now this sun was governed by Tezcatlipoca, the lord of the smoky mirror, whose power lay in dominance and reflection. Under his rule, strength was the highest virtue. To overcome another was proof of worth. To stand unchallenged was to be favored by the gods. The people learned early that this world they belonged to could all be taken away from them. They built no delicate cities, for delicacy was for the weak. Their dwellings were thick-walled and low to the ground. Their tools were heavy, their weapons simple and brutal. What matters was not beauty, but endurance. What mattered was not harmony, but victory. In the first sun, order was maintained through fear. Those who rose to power held it by force, and those beneath them learned obedience through pain. The gods did not intervene to soften the world. They rewarded conquest and silence. Mercy was not taught, and restraint was not admired. The earth at first endured. The forest grew dense and dark. The mountains stood unbroken. Rivers cut their paths without resistance. Life was abundant, but it learned to hide. Creatures of claw and fang thrived, mirroring the nature of the people themselves. The world reflected what ruled it. Over time, the people of the first sun forgot the difference between strength and excess. To dominate was no longer enough. They sought to dominate everything. They hunted not for need, but for proof. They fought not for survival, but for sport. The weak were not protected, and the fallen were never remembered. The gods watched, and the mirror, Lipoca, darkened. The balance that sustained the sun began to strain. Strength unchecked turned inward. The people no longer listened to the earth, nor to the warnings carried by the wind. They believed the world existed to endure them. Then the jaguars came. They did not arrive as an invasion, nor as a punishment announced from the sky. They emerged from the forest, from the mountains, from places where the world itself remembered itself. Silent and patient, they moved as the earth moves, without anger and without haste. The jaguars were not beasts alone. They were the return of the world's will. Where the people struck hardest, the jaguar struck back. Where strength had been worshipped, strength was answered. Villages fell without warning. Paths once claimed by men were reclaimed by claw and shadow. The night grew longer and the ground drank deeply. The people fought as they had always fought. They raised their weapons. They stood their ground. They believed that force could save them. It did not. For the jaguars did not tire. They did not seek glory. They did not rule. They corrected. One by one, the strong were taken. The cries of conquest gave way to silence. The earth closed over what remained. The forest thickened. The mountains stood as they had before. The sky lifted, indifferent. And so the first sun ended. Not in fire, not in blood, but in teeth and shadow. When the jaguars were through, the world was empty of those who had ruled it. Strength alone had proven insufficient to sustain creation. The earth rested, and the gods turned away from what had been made. From the remains of that age, something memory buried in muscle and bone, a warning carried forth into the next world, that strength without restraint will always devour itself. The second sun, the age of wind. The second sun rose in a world that moved. Where the first sun had heavily pressed upon the earth, this new age loosened its grip. The sky lifted higher. The air grew restless. Winds crossed the lands freely, carrying seeds, voices, and memory from one place to another. The world no longer held still. This sun was governed by Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, whose nature was creation, breath, and renewal. Under his guidance, life was shaped not by force, but by movement. Change was welcome. Travel was praised. To remain in one place for too long was to resist the nature of the world. The people of the second sun were lighter of body and quicker of thought. They spoke many languages, and none belonged to them for long. Names shifted with age. Borders were not fixed. Knowledge passed easily from one mind to another, carried on like the wind with pollen. They learned to read the sky. Clouds were signals, breezes were messages. The movement of birds revealed paths yet unseen. The people followed these currents, settling briefly before moving on. Their dwellings were temporary, their cities flexible. Nothing was built to last forever because nothing was meant to. In this age, the gods did not rule through fear. They ruled through inspiration. The people were encouraged to learn, to question, and to seek beyond the horizon. Songs traveled farther than armies ever had. Ideas crossed distances faster than any foot could carry them. And for a time, the balance held. But movement left unchecked does not rest. As the people learned more, they began to outpace the gods who guided them. They discovered patterns in the wind that they had not been taught. They followed currents that led beyond paths the gods had laid out. They asked questions that did not return to their makers. The world grew wide and thin. Communities scattered, lineages burned, memories fractured into many versions of itself. What one group knew, another reshaped. Truth became fluid. The gods found it harder to gather the people's attention, harder to anchor belief in one single form. Quetzalcoatl watched as his creation shifted. The wind that once connected all things began to separate them. Without stillness, there could be no center. Without a center, the world could not hold. The signs appeared quietly. Winds shifted without patterns. Storms crossed paths and tore at one another. The sky spoke in voices that contradicted themselves. The people felt it, but did not stop. The movement had become their nature. Then the wind rose. Not a single storm, but an unraveling. Currents pulled against one another. The air thickened and twisted. The ground itself seemed uncertain, which was always going forward. The people were lifted, scattered, and changed. Some were carried so far that they were never seen again. Some were transformed by the force of the wind, reshaped into beings of air and motion. Some simply vanished, absorbed into the endless sky. There was no battle, no moment of resistance. The second sun did not fall, it just dispersed. When the winds were settled, the world was quiet and vast. The past, once traced by feet and memory, had been erased. The land remained, but it was empty of those who roamed it. Quetzalcoatl withdrew, carrying with him the knowledge that freedom without grounding dissolves its own foundation. From the second sun remained a lesson carried forth unseen, that movement must be balanced with return, and that knowledge uncontained would scatter a world beyond recovery. The third sun, the age of fire. The third sun rose in brilliance. Light filled the world in ways it had never done before. The sky burned clear and high, and the day stretched long and bright. Where the second sun had scattered, this age gathered. Heat brought focus, fire brought purpose. The world sharpened itself. This sun was governed by Tlaloc, Lord of Rain and Fire, whose power lay in release and restraint of energy. Under his domain, the forces of nature were no longer distant or mysterious. They were observed, measured, and invoked. The people of the third sun learned to command fire. At first, they used it to shape their world gently. Fire hardened clay and strengthened tools. It brought light to the night and warmth to the cold. With it, the people built cities that endured and rituals that bound them together. The world grew ordered and efficient. But fire teaches quickly. Soon the people learned not only to tend fire, but to draw power from the heavens themselves. They read the sun's movements, the heat of the earth, hidden force within stone and storm. Rituals grew precise. Offerings became calculations. Knowledge was recorded and refined. And this was an age of mastery. Now these people believed understanding granted permission. Each discovery led to another. Each boundary crossed revealed a new source of strength. The gods watched as people reached, pulling energy into forms it was never intended to last. The world glowed. Cities shone against the horizon, alive with light even after the sun had set. The night no longer belonged to the stars. Fire had claimed it. The people celebrated their control, believing themselves aligned with forces that shape creation. But fire does not forget its own nature. As power accumulated, restraint diminished. What began as harmony shifted towards excess. Rituals demanded greater energy. Structures required constant feeding. The people no longer asked whether something should be done, only whether it could be. And the earth began to strain. The skies darkened with heat. The air grew heavy. Rain fell unevenly, either absent or overwhelming. The signs were visible, but dismissed. The third son had taught people to trust in power, and power had not yet failed them. Then fire returned from above. The sky opened, and the flame fell upon the world like judgment without voice. Not a single blaze, but many. Burning rain that struck cities and fields alike. The structures that had drawn so much energy became conduits for destruction. Stone cracked. Metal warped. The light that had once illuminated the night consumed it instead. The people fled, but there was no refuge. Fire traveled faster than thought. What had been mastered now ruled. The world burned with force it had been taught to release. There was no correction, only consumption. When the flames at last faded, the land was blackened and silent. The cities were reduced to ash. The knowledge that had once seemed eternal had vanished like smoke. The third sun ended in brightness too intense to endure. From its ruin remained a warning carried into the next age, that power without restraint accelerates its own end, and that mastery mistaken for wisdom invites destruction from the very forces it commands. The fourth sun, the age of water. The fourth sun rose into a world that mourned. After the burning of the third world, the earth cooled and softened. Ash settled in the soil, scars filled with water, the sky diminished, and the clouds gathered low, holding their weight. This was an age shaped not by conquest or mastery, but by memory. This sun was governed by Kachi-Utli-Kwan, she of the jade skirt, whose power lay in water both life-giving and sorrowful. Under her influence, the world learned to feel again. Rivers widened, lakes deepened, rain returned in steady rhythm. Life emerged cautiously, nurtured by gentle forces. The people of the first sun were bound together by kinship and care. They lived close to the water, listening to its movements and honoring its patience. Stories were preserved. Loss was remembered. The pain of earlier worlds was not hidden, but carried forward. This was an age of deep connection. Communities gathered not for strength or expansion, but for belonging. The people learned to read each other's faces, to sense sorrow before it was spoken. Bonds grew thick and enduring. The world felt intimate, woven together by shared experience. For a time, this balance held, but memory, like water, accumulates. Grief was not released, it was held, shared, and returned again and again. The people mourned not only their own losses, but for the losses of the world itself. Every river carried remembrance. Every raindrop recalled what had been burned and scattered before, and the weight grew. The gods watched as emotion filled every space. Compassion turned inward, becoming heaviness. The people slowed. Movement became effort. Even joy carried the echo of sorrow. Kachi-Utli-Kwan wept. Her tears were not punishment, they were simply response. The rains grew longer. Rivers spilled their banks. The land drank deeply, then too deeply.